In this video, I'm going to show you 5 different ways that you can bend wood, and I'm going to use all 5 of those ways to make this side table that has a reversible top. So the first method I'll be showing is bent lamination, and the first step to that is I need to make like a sort of mold that I can use to shape the pieces while the glue dries. Now that I have the mold cut out, I just need to cut a bunch of strips, and the thinner the strips are cut, the better they'll bend. I'm cutting my strips to about a 1/16 of an inch because the bend that I have isn't that tight, but if I wanted a really tight curve, I would have to cut them even thinner, and there would be a lot of waste. Next, I need to get glue on all these strips and then get them in the mold before the glue sets. And this really is probably the worst part of bent lamination. It's pretty stressful to try to get this all done in time before the glue sets, especially if you're doing multiple pieces, like multiple legs is what I'm making at the same time. So it's just kind of a race against time and can be a little bit messy and stressful. So the hardest part is over. I have them all glued and clamped into the mold, and now I'm going to wait quite a while, like longer than I usually would for a glue up, because in bent lamination, it has a tendency to try to like spring back a little bit once you take it out of the mold. So you want to make sure that the glue is completely set so that it does not spring back, or at least does not spring back very much. So now I have it done, and I can take it out of the mold and clean them up, and it looks pretty good. One thing that some people don't like about bent lamination is that you can very much tell that it's not solid wood. Those strips are pretty obvious, but for me personally, I like the way that the layers look, so I don't mind it. So the next method I'm going to be showing is kerf bending, and I've actually never done kerf bending before, so maybe I shouldn't be the one to show you this, but I thought I'd try it out. And the first step is to set my miter saw so it cuts just shy of cutting through, and then I'm going to measure out every inch with my tape measure. And really this does not matter that much. Your cuts don't need to be perfectly equidistant apart, but this will help me get an idea so that the bend is more consistent. So now that I got this nice bendy piece I can work with, to make it permanently bend, I need to add glue to all those kerfs. And from what I've seen online, you do not want to use just normal wood glue. You want to use something a little bit thicker, or you can just add sawdust to your normal wood glue like I'm doing here. And the reason you want to use like a thicker glue is just so that it'll better fill those kerfs and you'll get a better bond. So this ended up being even more stressful than the bent lamination method. The glue is a lot thicker, so it was drying faster, and I had to fill a lot of curves. And I didn't really have a mold the same way that I did for the bent lamination. But what I did do is I made these little quarter circle pieces that I could use to guide the curve how I wanted it to go. And that ended up working pretty well. And so I did end up liking this method. It's just a little bit more difficult. So I really do like the way that this kerf bent method looks from the outside. It looks like one solid piece, but on the inside, it just looks like a mess. Even if I were to clean this up, it still wouldn't look normal. Luckily for me, no one's going to see the inside of this part, but it's something to be aware of. Third method I'm going to be showing is segmented bending, and this isn't really bending wood, but it is a way to make curved or bent pieces. So I'm going to count it, and you see this a lot like when people make bowls and vases and stuff like lathe turners. So the first step is I need to make a bunch of pieces that will be mitered together into a circle. So I'm going to cut 8 pieces at 22.5 degrees. Next, I need to form all these pieces together into a circle, and you could just glue them as is, like miter them together, but I actually cut a dado in each of these pieces so that I could spline all these together just to give it a little bit more strength. Once the glue dries, I just need to trim up all these corners so it looks a little bit more circular. And that is like one small criticism of this method, is that it is somewhat wasteful. All these methods are kind of wasteful, but this one is more obvious because it's not just being turned right into sawdust. Uh, but you can kind of help this. The more segments you have, the less waste there is, or the less segments you have, the more waste there is. But there really was not that much waste in this in comparison to like bent lamination that I just showed you in the kerf bending. The fourth method I'm going to be showing, again, is not really bending the wood, but it's a way to make bent pieces, and that is just cutting out the piece bent. So this is my favorite way to do it, and super easy, and there's almost no waste if you do it right. Right now I'm showing you the wrong way, and that is just to cut a piece from the middle and then waste those two side pieces. So that was the really wasteful way, and then here's the way that is not wasteful and the way that I usually do it. I did not come up with this. I saw another YouTube video of somebody doing this, and I just thought it was pretty cool. So I make a mark with my compass, and then I'm cutting it out with my jigsaw or bandsaw or whatever I'm using. And then once I have these two pieces cut, I'm just going to take the piece on the right, and I'm going to take it over and flip it to the left side and glue it on. So now you can see the wasteful versus non-wasteful way of doing it side by side. And the only real downside to the non-wasteful way is that it doesn't look quite like a solid piece the way that the one in the right does because of the glue line. But I don't really notice. If you don't notice either, I think this is a good way of doing it. So the last method I'll be showing, and probably the most known method, is steam bending. And I personally do not like steam bending. I've done it in the past and it never really works great for me. If you have the setup for it, I'm sure it's great. It's obviously used a lot for a reason, but I don't even have water access in my shop, so it's just not really worth it to me. So I'm just going to make something small. I'm making a drawer handle, and then I'm going to take that strip and bring it inside where I do have a water access, and then I am just going to boil it in some water. And I actually left it boiling in here for an hour before I was like, okay, I'm just wasting energy at this point. So then once I had it all boiled, it still was not very well saturated, and I thought it would. That's why I used pine. I thought it would saturate much easier with a softwood, but it did not, and I ended up leaving it in just like a bowl of lukewarm water for like 3 days before it was actually fully saturated. And then I could put it in the mold, and I had to wait another 3 days for it to fully dry for that. And so for me personally, it just kind of seems like a waste of time and energy and like actual energy, electricity and stuff, especially for something that can be much easier done with these other methods. Again, that's just me personally. If you have the setup, I'm sure it's great. I do not like it. To end this on a positive, I will say that this steam bending method, or I guess I just wet bending method that I did, it looks really good. It's a solid piece of wood. There's no glue lines, so I will say it looks the best out of all the methods. So those are my 5 methods of bending wood, or I guess curving wood in some of these examples. And now I'm going to use all those examples that I made throughout the video, and I'm going to put them together to make a cool looking table. So that is it. Please let me know what you think about the table in the comments. I really like it, but it has become sort of a divisive issue to the people I've shown it to. Some of them really like the blue top. Some of them really do not like it. It's like 50-50. So what I did is I actually didn't glue in the blue top, and I added a walnut side so that I can flip it over so it's reversible depending on what you like. So yeah, that's basically it. So thank you for watching. Oh, also at the end here, I added sort of like a ranking of each of these different bending methods. If you wanted to see something like that, you can pause and look at these. This is just, in my opinion, my limited experience, but maybe it'll help someone.